think somewhere in Eddie's talk, we got the essence that we are all interconnected. And this is really a fundamental concept, because sometimes when we think, I'm going to be a yoga practitioner, you think, it's just me. It's me on my journey. But we're never alone. We're fully interactive all the time and dependent upon each other. And what one person says and how one person acts affects somebody else. So if you have ever been violated, if you have been abused, if you have been betrayed, if there has been hostility in your direction, then you are affected, usually deeply affected. And it would be great if we could all truly just grasp the understanding that there is an untouchable essence within us and rise above what we feel. But on the way to this understanding, we feel and we are changed because of the acts of Ahimsa, of violence, of harmfulness. So sometimes harmfulness is almost conscious. We sense that we are somehow separate or different from one another, and then depending upon that situation we may assume superiority. One race over another race, two different races fighting for a piece of land, a large person over a small person, one coloured skin over another coloured skin, an adult over a child. Many of us are within the realm of being victims of violence. And it's important to appreciate that Ahimsa is not just there in a list of ideas so that we can become spiritual. It's there because this violence affects us deeply. So some of us come to yoga because we are scarred, because we need to heal, because we want to feel well. Sometimes violence or harmfulness is unconscious, and it comes from a reaction. First it might just be a little joke, and then the joke becomes a shove, and the shove becomes a push, and the push becomes a punch, and then a slap. Ahimsa is to strike, and then the slap might turn into a stab, and a stab to a gun, and a gun to a bomb, and before we know it, we've chain reacted. And what could have been just a simple misunderstanding caused potentially a world calamity. So what can we do? We can try to nip it in the bud. So when we feel something brewing, that first match that can light the flame that creates the fire, it only takes one breath to blow it out. So the process of yoga helps us to slow things down a little bit. Some of us. And in creating an internal awareness, have a look at our own patterns, our own conditioning, and our own reactions. And then when that first initiation of potential spark arises, we can step back and go, will we retaliate and build upon this aggression, or will we step out of the line of fire? Yoga helps in a few ways. When we practice, the physicality of the yoga makes us feel strong and empowered. And sometimes this strength and empowerment can give us the courage to step away from a violent situation, to have self-respect. The poses within themselves, sometimes in the practice we get passionate and we get hungry and we want to forge forward and we don't respect the limitations of the body and we can cause self-harm. So as we mature as practitioners, we develop a self-respect where harming ourselves is no longer acceptable. nor someone else harming us is acceptable. So I guess what I'm trying to say is it's really, really important that we take responsibility for our part. Yeah. Because if so many people are violated, somebody's doing the violence. And that the yoga helps us to look inside, to take a quiet moment, and to assess who we are, to slowly build an awareness, to build a self-knowledge, and then to act accordingly. Just need to pause a minute. My brain works differently to Eddie's.
Mine doesn't work.
Ahimsa, Pratishtana, Satapranidha. The sutra about Ahimsa, non-violence, says that when we cultivate this peace within ourselves, then everything, every living being will feel that, and all hostility will cease. Another way to look at that is bhavana. Bhavana is sometimes translated as attitude, but it's more about coming from a good place inside yourself, coming from a sattvic place. A little bit like when Tim finished the Hanuman Chalisa last night, and then there was this very sweet energy where you could feel this collective good feeling. So there's a sutra in chapter 1, Maitri, Karuna, Mudito, Pakshanam, Sukha, Dukkha, Punya, Punya Vishayanam, Bhavanata, Chitta Prasadanam. And it says that when we cultivate the qualities of the heart, then the mind, the turning of the mind will still. And if we can celebrate the joy in others, and be compassionate to suffering, if we can feel joyful in the light of purity, but also if we can be non-reactive, non-judgmental, non-harsh, not to close off in the light of things that are perhaps not fair or not right yet. So Ahimsa is about trying to meet every situation, the sweet and the not so sweet alike, with an open heart, and hoping to radiate or cultivate the potential for peace even in a volatile situation. Something like that.